We're familiar with exploitation movements in film. Blaxploitation, horror exploitation, exploitation westerns, movies with cheap budgets, fast scripts, trend-chasing movies made to capitalize on whatever was popular at the moment. Exploitation films weren't necessarily about quality. They were about speed and opportunity. But what if I told you there was one case in film history where an entire exploitation movement wasn't built around a genre, but around a single person? That movement was called Bruceploitation, and the man at the center of it was Bruce Lee. Welcome to Real Stories with Teacher Eddie, the true stories behind the movies. Before we get into Bruceploitation, it's important to understand why Bruce Lee's absence created something so extreme in the first place. Bruce Lee didn't just become popular, he exploded. In the 1960s, Lee struggled to break through in America despite his talent, his charisma, and his ideas. Hollywood couldn't imagine a Chinese man as a leading star. Even when Bruce Lee helped develop the concept for a television series about a Shaolin monk traveling the American West, he was passed over in favor of a white actor. The role in the television show Kung Fu went to David Carradine. It was a decision rooted in racism, xenophobia, and the belief that American audiences simply wouldn't accept an Asian lead. So Bruce Lee did something radical. He left America. In 1971, he returned to Hong Kong, and almost overnight, everything changed. With films like The Big Boss and Fist of Fury, Bruce Lee became the biggest box office draw in Asian cinema history. His movies weren't just successful, they were cultural events. And what made them different was Bruce Lee himself. He didn't treat martial arts like a novelty. He didn't rely on wire work, exaggerated movements, or fantasy. His fights were fast, violent, precise. Bruce Lee brought realism, philosophy, and discipline to martial arts cinema. He choreographed his own fights. He shaped the camera around movement, and by the time he made Way of the Dragon, he was directing as well. Bruce Lee wasn't just starring in these films, he was redefining the genre. For the first time, martial arts films weren't niche entertainment, they were serious cinema. And then Hollywood finally noticed. A year later in 1972, Bruce Lee was cast in Enter the Dragon, a major international Hollywood co-production designed to introduce him to a global audience. He was 3 weeks away from becoming a worldwide icon. And then, at the age of 32, Bruce Lee was found dead. The shock was immediate. Hong Kong cinema lost its biggest star, and Hollywood lost a man it had only just begun to embrace. Audiences around the world were left stunned. But the demand for Bruce Lee didn't disappear with him. If anything, it intensified. Bruce Lee didn't leave behind a genre. He left behind a vacuum. And film industries don't like vacuums. What followed was something entirely unprecedented. An exploitation movement built around the idea that Bruce Lee wasn't really gone, or that someone else could take his place. This became known as Bruceploitation. Unlike other exploitation movements, Bruceploitation wasn't about style or theme. It was simply about substitution. Studios began searching for replacements, not successors. Not artists inspired by Bruce Lee, but Bruce Lee imitators. Actors were given names that sounded just close enough. Bruce Lee, Bruce Lee, Dragon Lee. They were encouraged to dress like him, move like him, pose like him, and in some cases even grunt like him. Posters and VHS covers implied sequels that never existed. Exit the Tiger, Enter the Dragon, Chinese Connection Part 2, Game of Death Part 2. The marketing was intentionally deceptive. Audiences weren't being sold martial arts films. They were being sold the idea that Bruce Lee was still alive, or at least still on the screen. And this didn't stop at lookalikes. It extended to Bruce Lee himself. In 1978, 5 years after his death, his final unfinished film, Game of Death, was finally released. Yet out of the film's 100-minute runtime, only 11 minutes of actual Bruce Lee footage was shown. The rest of the film relied on stand-ins, sunglasses, mirrors, obscured angles. At times, even a cardboard cutout of Bruce Lee's face was used. But the most disturbing choice came in the middle of the film. To sell the illusion that Bruce Lee's character had faked his death, the movie used real footage from Bruce Lee's funeral. Real mourners, a real coffin, a real death. Bruce Lee wasn't just being imitated, he was being exploited. His image, his legacy, his death, and this pattern continued for years. Throughout the late 1970s and well into the 1980s, hundreds of Bruceploitation films were produced. Many openly advertised themselves as Bruce Lee's final movie, Bruce Lee's lost film, or Bruce Lee's revenge. But none of them actually starred Bruce Lee. What makes this even more unsettling is what happened alongside it. Even though Bruce Lee had proven that an Asian man could be a global movie star, Hollywood didn't immediately open the doors for other Asian actors. In the 1980s, American studios chose to create a new martial arts star, one that fit a more comfortable image. Actors like Michael Dudikoff became leading men in films like the American Ninja series. Not because they brought something new to martial arts cinema, but because they were white. This was followed by a wave of Western martial arts stars. Steven Seagal, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and even Bruce's own son, Brandon Lee. All the while, many of the most talented performers in Hong Kong cinema remained largely invisible to American audiences. Jackie Chan, despite being a massive star in Asia, struggled for decades to find success in the United States. His early American attempts failed because studios tried to force him into being the next Bruce Lee. It wasn't until the mid-1990s with films like Rumble in the Bronx that Jackie Chan finally broke through on his own terms. Sammo Hung, despite being an enormous influence, never truly became an American star, and it wouldn't be until even later that performers like Jet Li and Donnie Yen would find mainstream recognition in Hollywood. By then, Bruceploitation had largely faded, not because the industry had become more ethical, but because it had finally found new ways to package martial arts for Western audiences. Bruceploitation wasn't about honoring Bruce Lee, it was about prolonging the legend long enough to sell the tickets. And when the legend becomes profitable, print the legend, even if it means never letting the man rest. In future episodes of Real Stories, we'll take a closer look at Lee's original vision for Game of Death and the mysterious circumstances of his passing. This was the story of Bruceploitation, an exploitation movement built around a single person and an industry that couldn't accept that he was gone. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Real Stories. In the next episode, we will cover The Godfather and how a film hit too close to home for one of the biggest entertainers in America. I'm Teacher Eddie, and this has been Real Stories. See you next time, fam.